What is going on, Panthers Nation? Carolina Dad here, your host of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. And I am back with your preview of the Carolina Panthers and the Tennessee Titans. Let's dive right in. Carolina Panthers coming off a butt-whooping, I won't call it a butt-whooping of the century, but they got manhandled against the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of that had to do with interior pressure. Rookie guard Chandler Zavala giving up quite a few sacks. Hate to see that. You hate to see that. So coming into this, what do I think about this game? But before I can really get into it, let's take a step back. So I did go out and watch the preview, or the highlights of the Tennessee Titans and Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars did the same thing that the Cowboys did to us. Manhandled that team. It was actually 27-0 late in the third quarter, and then Will Levis threw a touchdown pass off of a flea flicker, which made it 27-7. Then they scored a garbage time touchdown, so I think it was like 34-14 was the final score, but it was never really close. Really big day for Calvin Ridley. And just watching the highlights, seeing an efficient offense in the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh. Seeing all the throws from Trevor Lawrence to Kirk, the running game, the motions, the sweeps. I'm like, oh, can we please get something like that in this Carolina offense? So if you're a Titans fan listening to this, I can assure you, you don't have to worry about that. Our biggest play has been to Sullivan, which is a tight end, and then to Strachan over the last two weeks or so. And he was a practice squad guy that got called up. We do not have a deep threat. We have a lot of issues with pressure. As I said, giving up a ton of sacks. Bryce is second in the league in times that he's been sacked. And that's even with him missing a game. And still getting sacked that many times. He has withstood the test of his durability that was a question for a lot of people. He's been able to hold up. And hold out. And, for the last 7 games with this entire organization, there's not a lot to look forward to. I think this game in particular, I do feel a little bit better about it. So I think I'm 6-4 picking the Panthers this year. Started off rough, picking us to win a few games, then went on the losing streak and got on board with that. Not something to brag about. Picked the Houston game, then I thought we were going to rebound a little bit more and flipped my pick against the Bears. I should have never done that, but it is what it is. And here we are, coming into this. One, the Tennessee Titans have done really well at home. I was going back to look at their records. They have 3 wins on the season. All 3 of those wins came at home, and they beat some pretty good teams. Beating the Chargers, that was in week 2. The Bengals, that was when the Bengals were just figuring out their identity, we'll say. But they beat the Bengals 27-3, so you can't knock that. And they beat the Atlanta Falcons. They've also been in some close games with the Steelers. I think it was 20-16. The Colts, 23-16. Week 1 against the Saints, lost a very tough game there, 16-15. A lot of changes have happened, and I'm not a Titans fan or following the Titans very closely, but I do know they got somebody called Will Levis, who's another rookie quarterback that was drafted, had a really good kind of hot start, so to speak, and then it seems like he slowed down a little bit, especially in the last game. But I think he's their guy going forward. I know they also have Malik Willis, who's come in a little bit, but it seems like Will Levis, it's the Will Levis show. Let's see, 857 passing yards, 6 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. So not bad. And he started or played in 4 games so far, getting up to speed. So we have another rookie versus rookie matchup. Earlier in the season, oh my gosh, Bryce Young against C.J. Stroud, and I was flipping it in my mind. That's why I confused myself. But Bryce Young versus C.J. Stroud. Bryce Young got the better of C.J. We know that was the only win the Panthers have had. A lot of that had to do with the defense. And the defense that I think I posted earlier this week is 6th in the league in yards allowed, but like 31st or 32nd in points allowed. And a lot of that has to do with turnovers, pick sixes that Bryce is giving up. Another pick 6 that happened. I went back and watched, and it's a thing where you speculate what really happened. And I'm not a person trying to make an excuse for Bryce and throwing an interception and another pick six. But if you look at the drag route, Mingo drifts up a little bit. And if he stays level and flat, he doesn't give the defensive back, Bland, an opportunity to come up and make that play. But Bland make a heck of a play. This is the NFL. We talk about being able to fit the ball into windows and or things that Bryce is going to learn as he gets into this. A few other guys on the Tennessee Titans that you may know about. Derrick Henry, who has 663 rushing yards, 4.2 yards per carry, 4 rushing touchdowns, and DeAndre Hopkins, their leading receiver, 650 yards. Someone that I personally would have loved to have. It didn't, we never got to land him in the offseason, but someone that, as things were figuring out who was going to be who and who the Panthers were going to get, I was like, yeah, it'd be great to have that type of receiver for Bryce Young in year one to help his development. Will Levis versus Bryce. And I'm not going to jump into an official prediction just yet. I want to get into a little bit more of the teams in the head-to-head. So, number one, Tennessee is favored in this game, 3.5-point favorite. The over/under is 36.5 points. These are not two teams with explosive offenses. I was looking at kind of the differential on scoring and yardage. The Panthers' average scoring margin is 11.2 points, negative 11.2 points. We're losing games by almost, really a touchdown and a field goal and some change. Tennessee's much closer, 4.6. But over the last 3 games, it's been pretty even. So 13.3 for us, 12.7 for Tennessee. The big difference, though, is home and away. Like I said, Tennessee has won 3 games at home, the only 3 wins that they've had. Their scoring margin has been plus 10.7 at home. So much better team at home. And one of the things that they likely are going to be able to do really well is run the ball. We have not been able to stop the run, even though the defense has come to life a little bit more and we've shut down the quarterbacks and defensive back plays looked really good. We haven't been able to stop a lot of teams' rushing attack. And that's something that I feel like if I'm the Titans and I'm game planning, that I would be game planning for. Offensive-wise, though, we are averaging about 16.3 points per game to Tennessee 16.8. So again, not high-scoring offenses. I remember Will Levis coming out and throwing like 4 touchdowns a few weeks ago, though. So it's there. He can make the plays, and he's got some receivers to get the ball to. The last 3 games, though, both teams are averaging 12 points per game. Not good. Tennessee's faring a little bit better at home in general, putting up about 27 points per game. And on the road, the Panthers have just been bad, scoring about 19 and giving up 32. We know we've had Detroit, we've had Miami, some high-powered offenses. In a lot of those games, we have those other teams getting up big, and then we have some garbage time touchdowns. When you look at the 2 offenses, Tennessee's a little more balanced than us, rushing for about 42% of the time versus 57% pass. We've remained pass-heavy with the rookie quarterback, even though we've got Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders, and a Miles Sanders that I think came alive a little bit this last game. I really liked him. I've given him a hard time this past year, this whole entire season really, but he showed why he was who he was last year, and I hope that can continue and feed him. Frank Wright likes to talk about feeding the hot hand, and not to say that he's hotter than Chuba right now, but considering what we saw, there was some moments where you're like, man, that's who I thought we were getting this entire time. Yeah, almost 64% pass to 36% rush. So not great, in my opinion, for a rookie quarterback. They're averaging about 5.1 yards per play to our 4.1. Passing-wise, we are at the bottom of the league at about 4.6 yards per pass to their 6.3. We know we can't throw the ball deep. I don't know if we ever will be able to. I'm ready. I've seen a few mock drafts joking about drafting all receivers. I do think similar to years past, like in the Matt Rule era where we drafted all defensive players in one draft, I feel like we're going to have a draft where I don't think we'll do all offense, but it feels like if needs or things are not addressed in free agency, that they'll have to be addressed in this way. Like, I don't know how else you get what you need to get out of this. So, jumping in, I wanted to pull up if I could get our efficiency stats. I know I kind of touched on a few of them, but I do like to look at kind of the general overview. Talked about points per game, very low scoring offenses. On the defensive side of the ball, they're a little bit better. Not a little bit better, a lot of bit better. I'll say a lot of bit better compared to us. We're giving up 27.5 points per game. They're closer to 3 touchdowns at 21.4. Again, the yards that we give up, 308, which is about 6th in the league. They are giving up 343 yards. One of the things, looking at the past game, there were a few turnovers, and one primarily on special teams where misfielded a punt, and I think there was a fumble off of that. Special teams and defense have been the shining star for the Panthers, if you can even say that for a one-win football team. We've had a lot of conversations, or I have, and I listened to the Mac and Bone show out of Charlotte, listen to other media, and there are a lot of people saying, should the Panthers sit Bryce Young for the rest of the year? Not because he isn't playing well, but for his own safety. Like, what is the benefit of him going out here every week and continuing to get banged around? Yes, he's going to learn and develop, and maybe that'll help with the speed of the game heading into next year. But if you're not going to surround him or protect him with valuable players that can keep him protected, I don't know why you would want to do that or what the benefit is. Hard to tell. Now, before I jump in, I did have one tweet come through. I asked for everyone to, well, not everyone, I asked for, give me 1 second and I'll tell you. Someone dropped their thoughts. So Jeffrey Hodges, it's Jeff underscore Hodges 31, asked about prediction. He said Titans 24, Panthers 13. No confidence in the offense based on past performance. Feels horrible for Bryce. The defense has kept them in the game, but there's only so much they can do. A coaching staff that appears mind-boggling inept. Cats are a shameful disaster. Titans pull away late. Hey, I kind of agree with that. I do kind of agree with that. I am going to say it's one of those weeks where it doesn't make sense to pick the Panthers. Does it ever make sense to pick the Panthers? Like coming in 10 games in with Frank Wright, with, I joked, when you think about this offense, it takes so much for us to even get a first down and or a scoring drive. This past week, one of the longest scoring drives that we had of the season, it required us to convert multiple fourth downs. And I equated it to like our offense, being able to move the ball and just the scheme itself. I joke that it's like getting in your car when the gas light is on. You get in the car and your gas light comes on and you have 15 miles left and the closest gas station is 20 miles away. It's a bit of a gamble. Like, it's going to take everything, every fume in that car in order to make it there. And I think with the Panthers offense, that's what it feels like. It's going to take every single fume to get there. Now, the over-under on this game is 36.5 points, and that should tell you what Vegas thinks about these two offenses, which is, it's not a lot. It feels like the Texans game in a way. I know it's not as hyped, but you do have the rookie versus rookie quarterback. You do feel like that there is the possibility that we make a few more plays than we normally do, going against a bad team in Tennessee. We're not going to sit here and act like 3-7's a great record or that they're a team that we can't overcome. But when you think about the Panthers, I talked up looking at the Bears. I talked up looking at the Colts as winnable games. I knew Dallas was nowhere near winnable, but looking at the remainder of the schedule, you got Jacksonville, you've got Green Bay, we've got Tampa, Atlanta, New Orleans, and you sit there and you're like, well, are there any winnable games? And like Frank is still here. He may not have been fired yet, but he certainly is on the hot seat. Certainly is on the hot seat, and he has got to prove and show that he deserves to be here and that he can take Bryce and, over these last 7 games, show to Tepper, because I do think the pressure's there, show to Tepper that he's the right guy. Not even going to talk about Fitterer. I'm going to leave that for another day. So what do we get out of this? I think the Panthers got to pull something out. I mean, we're not looking at many more wins, if any. I am going to predict the Panthers win. How? I don't know. It doesn't feel right? But I do think the Panthers win this game. The why behind it, I think the success so the last game against the Cowboys, we made some mistakes. The pressure was there. I don't think, now I'm not going to say the Titans have a good defense too. And I saw, watching the highlights, they got to Trevor Lawrence a few times, made a few key stops on some run plays. So I think, they're a formidable defense, but at the same time, I think they're not the Dallas Cowboys front. And it feels like a game that there's no pressure on the Panthers. And I feel like I've said that a few times this season. But I think we figure it out. We figure out how to win. We get win number 2, and hopefully Arizona doesn't win, and then we're sitting there at least out of the number 1 overall pick for another week. It's all I can hope for. And we go from there. Now, if you're a Titans fan, you're like, what, man? Why you can't pick them? There's no way. Like I said, my record I think is like 6-4. The last time I picked us to win, we didn't win, so maybe that's good for you as a Titans fan coming into this game. Well, anyways, folks, that's all I got for today. Pretty shorter episode. Wanted to also highlight the hoodies that I've talked about. I'm going to be posting on social media the Black Friday deal. So be on the lookout, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, X, I should say, and I'll have information about the deal. So these are normally $48. I'm not making a ton, so I'm not like price gouging, but I am going to be reducing it down by $10 off, so it'll be $38. $38 promo. I think I'll run it probably for a week, so I'm calling it Black Friday, but it'll run for about a week or so. Anyways, that's all I got. Thank y'all. As always, you can follow the show on YouTube. You can watch on YouTube. You can watch on Spotify. Yes, watch Spotify. And then listen wherever you get your podcasts. That is all I got, folks. Y'all have a good one.